in our community, we talk about being contemplative activists. And I think what we learned was in the sort of formative years of our identity emerging, we opted for community as sort of the missional incubator of what held us together. And I think there was some real theological commitments in that because, you know, the scripture says that we will be known by our love for one another. And I think we don't love each other well. And I think it was first an invitation to recognize that just because I'm in community with people doesn't mean I like them, doesn't mean I'm friends with them. And so there's an option for love. And so we made that option, we made that commitment. And it seemed to work well for us for a while. But what we started to see was that community changes. There's transitions, and transitions in community are sometimes painful and sometimes necessary. And even when they're necessary, that doesn't always mean that they're painless. When these transitions started taking place, we realized that in a community of activists that were serving together, we were finding that because of the turnover and the changing sort of participation of who was in our community, that created some instability, and the thing that we had opted for, the commitments that we had made that we thought would be sustainable for us were sort of backfiring on us, and I think that was surprising for us. I think that was disappointing for us, and I think that was alarming for us. And so several years ago, in sort of a recovering of sort of what is necessary, I think, for activist communities to be sustainable, that we sort of had this awakening to the contemplative. And sort of this awakening to the contemplative, you know, that's not new, that's not fresh. Like, this is centuries and centuries of contemplative traditions within worshiping and serving Christian communities. But it was a surprise. It was unlikely for us. And what we found ourselves needing to do was to find this contemplative basis for our active lives. And that contemplative basis, of course, was nurtured by exploring and then giving ourselves to contemplative prayer practices. But, you know, even reading a stack of Merton books doesn't make you contemplative. Doing your prayer sits or your Lectio or your examen doesn't make you contemplative. It was really a posture of surrender. It was a submission to the silence and the gift of silence and the divine therapy that happens when we stop. And so for me, it's been really tough, actually, because in our community we sort of joke around that my wife Felina is sort of the contemplative mystic, that when she prays, it's like she's climbing up on this winged unicorn, flying into the third heavens, listening to God play a flute. And I'm sort of the pissed activist, sort of stomping around in mud puddles looking for Jesus on the road. And it still is honestly very difficult for me to stop, to listen, to surrender. A friend of mine, he used to play college baseball, Division I baseball, and he was getting handled by the Mets and the Marlins and the Pirates who were looking to draft him. And then there was an accident during a practice. He was hit in the head with a ball and actually went into a coma, and to this day has some permanent and mild brain damage. But when he was talking to me about what it was like playing ball at that level, he said, you know, one of the things that he did every single day was set up a tee in his mom and dad's garage, and he would hit 100 balls off that tee every single day. And I was like, man, that's ridiculous. Like, that don't help when somebody's throwing a 90-mile fastball or a curveball at your head. And he said, you know, I hit 100 balls off a tee every single day because I wanted to learn the muscle memory of the perfect swing. And I was like, that is, for me, the invitation to the contemplative. It's the muscle memory of consent. It's stopping. It's allowing sort of the mind to be emptied. It's creating empty space for silence. And if there's no sort of outcome, or if there's no sort of illumination, if there's no sort of discovery in it, the muscle memory of consent is where I need to be, and that's what I need to cultivate, and that's what I need to learn. And so as contemplative activists, we are stumbling forward and trying to find ways to rest, to resist, to submit, and to consent.
In order to memorize the perfect consent, do you need to embrace your inner unicorn? Is that what you're saying?
Oh man. Yeah, this is actually, I'll say this, like one of the things that was hard for me was looking at other people in my community whose temperament or whose sort of prayer practices really seem to resonate more with things that are historically more contemplative, and to see sort of the fruit of that in their lives and feeling like, man, it's just not my style. Like I'm not catching the energy or the vibe from that. And I did feel like I needed to be like other people. I did feel a lot of pressure to pray like other people or to nurture my spirituality in the ways that they were nurturing theirs. And actually, I feel like I've found a lot of grace in this. That I think sometimes the intention towards consent is sort of the first step into discovery of what is a contemplative posture look like. And yeah, there's no formula for these things. There's no sort of template. There's no sort of pop quiz at the end of it. Like, did A, B, C, and D happen? Are you experiencing more of A, B, C, or D in your life? It's really, I think, an act of love, and it's a gift, and it's a gift to offer. But the truth is I think when I frame it like that, I miss that it's the gift to receive, and it's God's gift to give.
What does nurturing a contemplative posture have to do with salvation?
Oh boy. I think that we have been fed quite a bit of misinformation about salvation, and I think we've perfected this reductionism of what we think salvation is, as if simply reducing prayers to words, or as if simply my ability to believe in something or my option for faith in something could save me. And I think that's really, I think that plays really well to the false center, that I save myself based on what I believe. I save myself based on what I pray or how I pray it. And I think, in fact, probably the first conversion that we need, the first thing that we need to be saved from is ourself, and the sort of God complex of ourself, and the perception that there is something within us that allows us the ability to perpetuate what we think salvation is. And so maybe that's one of the gifts of the contemplative, is the dismantling of the false center. But I think the more we sort of explore some of this, the less comfortable we get with a little bit of the standard reductionism of what we mean by salvation. I think that maybe actually is dangerous to think we've figured it out.